Welcome back. Here we go again. Part number 8, I think. Part number 8? Is it part? Yeah, I think it's part number 8. Losing track myself. So today I'm just going to show you how to lap in the valves. All the parts have arrived. Valves, rockers, lifters, new cam, new variators, everything. But today we're just going to lap in the valves, fit the valves, springs, retainers, collets, and I've got a pretty, stay around because I've got a pretty impressive, I've got a bit of a bonk on over it, but a pretty impressive new tool for fitting the valves, and it's a game changer, so stay around for that. So without further ado, let's get straight into it as usual. Part number 8, lapping in the valves, fitting the valve springs and retainers. Let's go. Alright then. So, as you can see, or maybe you can't, but this is the end of the cylinder head. This is one end of the cylinder head. I've already got 4 valves in. So I'm up to about halfway through. I've put 4 of the valves in. We're going to do the 5th one now. You can see on the edge of the cylinders, on the edge of the combustion chambers there's a little bit of a little bit of burring where the valves were bent up and knocked the cylinder head, so we'll have to knock those off at some point, as those will lead to hot spots in the cylinder which could cause pre-ignition. You don't want that when you're running over 1,000 horsepower or any sort of power level really, so I'll go over those later on and get rid of those, probably just knock the edges off with some sandpaper. However, at this point what we're doing is we're putting in the 5th valve. I'll just show you how to do one of the inlet valves just for reference, and then I'll crack on and I'll do the other 5, get it out of the way. So these are Supertech valve springs, the 1mm oversized. I'll get those out for you. Have a look at those. Here they are, just like the old ones, black nitrided. Very pretty things, very hard, and yeah, so just draw your attention, I don't know if you can see, hopefully the camera will focus, but just on the edge of that valve there, you can see it's nice, even, shiny surface where it's been machined. So that's what it looks like before the valve has been ground. So what we'll have to do is put that valve into where it needs to go, onto its seat, and we will grind the valve and the valve seat with grinding paste to match. Now, I did get this out for you. I did buy this little contraption to, I'll zoom out a bit. I did buy this little contraption to put on the end of my drill. I'd seen it on the internet and thought, I'd seen some YouTubers using it as well. I thought that looks good. So that bit goes in your drill fixing point, the jaws of your drill, sorry. And this is a little suction cup, and that goes onto the end of the valve like so. And then it sort of spins in the seat. It's supposed to spin and grind. The drill is supposed to spin this, and then you're supposed to grind the seat in. However, I'm a bit old school. I didn't like that. It was too much torque for this little sucker, and it just kept on slipping. And like I say, I'm old school, and I had a loss of sensation through the drill. I couldn't feel whether the seat was being cut in or not, so I decided to ditch that and go back old school. So what I have is my Old Faithful. This is just simply a stick with some suckers on, and we've got some fine grinding paste and some coarse grinding paste, and we're just going to put that on the valve and put it in using the old school way. So what I like to do is just attach the valve to the suction cup Simple as that. And get some coarse grinding paste. I've got a snotty nose again because I'm working with oil. Right, now all we're going to do is just touch a little bit on the edge of the valve there. And then pop the valve in here. And then we're just going to drop and spin the valve onto the seat. And I don't know if you can hear, but if I put some more grinding paste on, you'll be able to hear and feel through the stick the grinding paste on the valve. You hear it change, the pitch change there, a bit smoother. So we use the coarse stuff first, and we just literally hold our hands like we're starting a campfire with a piece of with a piece of wood, with a stick, rubbing two sticks together, and just spin it but drop it on the valve. And when you hear the valve note change like that, see it's nice and smooth when I drop it on now. Just get some more coarse paste, just dab it on the valve, and then you'll hear the pitch change again. So listen for the grinding. See that? Listen that? Yep. That's the difference. Now what will happen is if the valve isn't very clean, it'll start spinning off the valve like that, the suction cup. So every now and then just make sure your valve is free of all grease and contaminants. Force it back on there. It's doing it again, look. I'll have to get that out and clean it. That's what you want. You don't want it skipping around on the valve itself. You want it to be locked in there nice and solid. So make sure it's clean of all grease, and then just start again. Cup of tea. See the sound's changed again there. So what I'll do is give that a clean off. Now I don't like to use a lot of coarse grinding paste because, as the name suggests, it is quite coarse and it gets through the valve seat quite fast. So just do a little bit, maybe 5 minutes or so, 2 minutes on the coarse stuff, then go around with a rag, clear off the valve and the valve seat of all contaminants again. Now, I don't know if you can see on there, I'll move it closer to the camera. But can you see that little grey line where before it used to be sort of a machined flat surface, but now it's got a little grey line on? That is where the cutting paste has actually started to, needs a bit more cutting, you can see there, needs a bit more there. That's where the cutting paste has started to grind away the seat and the valve, and it's actually started to mate to the surface, so that's when you know you're doing a good job, because you get that little grey band on the valve. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to swap to the fine paste, and I like to use the fine paste for a little bit longer. Again, clean off the bottom of the valve, make sure it's free from contaminants, and just stick that sucker on there. And again, straight away you'll probably hear the noise or pitch of the grinding change as soon as the valve goes down into the seat. And when it settles down, you know that it's been evenly distributed across the seat. But we're getting there, we're getting there. As I say, I'm old school, so this is the way that I was taught when I was at Standwell and Dudley Motor College before, when I was an apprentice. This is how I was taught to do it. It's shut down now. It was over Birmingham way. I think it's a load of flats now. But that's where I served my apprenticeship anyway, Standwell and Dudley Motor College. So if anyone's down that way, used to stay at a house on a road called the Hilltop in Dudley. Those were my digs on the Hilltop in Dudley. Now, you can give it one or two of these, just little grinds if you've got a good connection between the plunger and the valve. Give it a few little grinds so you know. But again, you can, once you've done this a few times, you'll know what I mean by you can feel whether it's working on us, and that feels to me like it's getting close. Also, when you have got a good connection between the valve and the seat, it will start to stick in between passes. So you'll pop it down, you'll do a grind, and when you go like that, the valve will start to pop, it'll start to stick, and that's when you know you're getting somewhere close to it being airtight. You can tell by the noise as well, tell by the valve noise. Do a little bit more. So it's quite meditative, I guess. I like things like this. Not very interesting, but they occupy my mind. Now that sounds stupid, but that sounds like it's airtight to me. So, see that how smooth that sounds? I think that's not going to leak. So, what we'll do is we'll take that off, give everything a clean, and we'll test the theory. Now, when you're cleaning these valve seats with a rag, I've got a little bit of methanol on this. As you can see, it's just took all the oil straight off the inside of the head there, so the inside of the parts. So I put a little bit of racing methanol on there, just to clean all the cutting compound off and everything. You don't want, for one, any of that left in the parts in case it gets pulled inside the engine, because, you know, grinding paste inside an engine is going to do exactly what it says on the tin. It's going to grind that fucking engine bit to pieces. So, but secondly, when you go to test the valve for any leaks, a little bit of grinding paste, if it's aluminium oxide or wherever the cutting compound is in it, if that is in between the valve and the seat, it will prevent it from sealing and it will leak when you test it. So as I said, the other way to test whether the valve is near enough perfect is the way it sounds when you drop it in. It sounds silly, but once you've done it a few times, you can tell. Like, that sounds to me like it's gonna be airtight. Yeah, that sounds good to me. This is what I mean about the sound of the valve. Hear that there? That one's not cut in. This one is cut in. See that? Pushes air with it. It makes contact all around the circumference of the valve, and the sound is completely different. So that's the one that's lapped in. This is the one that isn't. See that? That's how you can tell. Sounds just doesn't sound the same. That one's not cut in. This one is cut in. That one's not cut in. This one is cut in. So what we'll do is we'll turn the head on its side. And what we'll do is we'll do a backyard leak test on it. So what I'll do is I'll pour the methanol down the part. That was a really bad pour. That went down the other part. But what would happen is the methanol would leak here, and it would pool around the bottom here. But as you can see, there is no leak at all. That is what you want to see. Now, the pressure from my finger is not as strong as the spring pressure. It's literally about 2 or 3 pounds worth of pressure. That. Now, my finger is not as strong as a racing spring, so you can imagine if it's not leaking with the pressure on from there, it's not going to leak at all. So just to illustrate the point, what I'll do is I'll take the pressure off there, and it's already leaked out. So that's good with that. The other good point about that is the whole of the inlet part there has had a nice clean out with methanol. As you can see, it's nice and shiny in there. There's no contaminants left in there, and it's also cleaned a little bit of the combustion chamber. So what we'll do is we'll now move on to fitting the valve with the keeper spring, with the keepers in the spring. And I've actually got a new tool for this one, and it is possibly the best tool that I've ever encountered for engine building. It saves so much time, it's amazing. I'll show you that in a minute. But what we'll do first is we'll fit we're going to fit the valve stem oil seal to that. So you make sure it's not leaking first, then you fit the valve stem oil seal. Otherwise you're in a world, it's just a stupid thing to do. Might have to move you over for this bit. So what we have here are 6mm valve stem oil seals. They're made of Viton, and I've got these are Supertech ones as well. On the DAZAs, the inlets are different to the exhaust. The exhausts have built-in valve seats on them, which I've never encountered before, so move you closer so you can see what's actually going on under here. These are really easy to fit. We're just going to take this, put it on top of the valve guide, seat it gently with your fingertips, and then all you need is an extension with a 9 or 10mm socket on the end. That fits perfectly over the end of the valve stem oil seal, and you just push it down, and that's it, perfectly seated. Simple as that. Now I've got aftermarket valve guides on mine. The DAZA's valve guides are threaded on top, so you have to screw the valve stem oil seals off and on. I'm not sure many people know that, but mine are aftermarket because I had the head rebuilt, so mine just push on, so much easier. So if you ever get cylinder head work done on your DAZA, make sure you get traditional valve stem oil seals setting. Make sure you get traditional valve guides setting. Save you a heap of trouble later on. So what we'll do now, let's turn the head back over. We're just going to push that new valve that we've cut into the valve guide, seat it neatly in the head. That's gone through the valve stem oil seal nice and cozy. And I'll introduce you to this amazing, I guess they're toys for guys, aren't they? Yeah, it's like tools or toys for blokes. But yeah, it's an amazing tool. First thing to do on this, make sure the valve's seated all the way. Now we're just going to use a piece of cardboard or something like that, push it into the combustion chamber, and that's just going to hold the valve in place while there's no spring pressure on it. Otherwise, when you put pressure, see, that's not moving because when you're going to whack that, you don't want it to move. Now this is the toy that I'm going on about. This is called a valve keeper helper, and I think it's from Sealy, but it's one of the best things I've ever used. Because usually when you're building engines, putting them back together, for the top end you will use something like this, which is a valve spring compressor. Absolute pain in the arse. Technology's moved on, we don't use those anymore. So all you need to do for these, you've got your racing spring, your titanium retainer, and your two collets. So all you do is you just make sure that the collets are sat in how they would usually sit, just in the top like that. And now you just seat them on top of the valve where they would usually go, just like that, which is perfect. You take this, you put the pointed bit on top of the collets, push it down so that the black bit seats around the rim of the spring, and just give it a whack. And that, how good is that? That is your valve spring, collets and valve all seated, perfectly mated together. Simple as that. Saves you so much time farting on. It's absolutely amazing. Get yourself one of those if you build engines. What I'd do is, just before I go, is I thought I'd show, I thought I'd fit valve number 6, but I haven't ground it in yet. So the surfaces aren't mated or ground to fit. So again, just using the methanol that we discussed earlier. Specific gravity of 0.6, 0.7, similar to fuel, so very, very thin. It'll get through anything. And I'm just going to pour it into the inlet passage. Hold my finger on there and it should leak. Yep, you see how it's leaking there? Now that's what happens if you don't grind your valves in. So they might look nice. Oh yeah, they're gonna fit straight out the box. No, they won't. You'll have an engine with very low compression and it will not work. So that's the importance of lapping your valves in. Now that, as you can see, we've got 5 done now. As I always do, I don't like to bore you, so I'll make a few more little points before I fit the other 5, and then that'll be the head done and ready to have that little bit on the hydraulic lifter repaired. But that's it basically. Other than that, all I can show is that you'll probably notice on the valve stems, if I can get this in here, on the valve guides, you'll probably notice that they have little cutouts here. Now that's not traditional on a factory valve guide, but what I have had done by Andy Earl Developments is he's ported this head, so that has been ground off on one side just to aid flow into the combustion chamber. Very nice job indeed. Yeah, I've still got the spark plugs in, but I will remove those further down the line before I fit the head. But other than that, I don't want to say it's going okay, but it is. But you know, never count your chickens before they've hatched. All I have to do after I've fitted these valves is just give the head an obvious clean here. Got the new cam, the new inlet cam off my mate Lee. Goes by Len Waite on the Audi forums. Won't say his real name, he likes to keep private, but he's a good lad, he looks after me, so thanks to Len for that. And one more point I'd like to make as well is, I don't know if you remember when I initially took the head off and it had contact marks on the pistons off the exhaust valves. Now I've been through and leak tested each valve, and each exhaust valve is it's airtight, nothing's leaking. So what has happened basically is I've obviously knocked the cam while I was timing the engine when the chain was off, and they've just rubbed on the valves, but thankfully there's no damage there. They just rubbed on the piston, sorry, so there's no damage there. So you know, another ball dodged. So, but yeah, I'll fit the other 5 valves. I'll give these a file down on the edges here. This part here is just where Andy's been porting, doing touching up the combustion chamber, but on the top of it here, it's, you see, you can catch a nail on it, so I'll have to grind those off just to stop hot spots, as I say. But that's it for now. That is it, and that is the end of another one. The cylinder head is actually outside on the car now. It's all bolted down, the engine just isn't timed up yet, so hopefully that's going to be the end of the troubles from now on. Just one point I want to add to the end of the video is the bit I posted where the cylinder head was leaking from the valve. The valve was leaking where it hadn't been seated properly. You can spend sometimes 20-30 minutes lapping one valve in, and it can have a slight weep, and I mean slight weep. You're like, well, you know, that's good enough to start. It might run okay, it might hold compression, but you're running thousands of psi in those cylinders. And what I've seen before is when the mixture combusts in the combustion cylinder, that little tiny gap that's enough to let a few molecules of liquid through is enough to let a little bit of flame through, and that flame, it'll either go via the exhaust route or it'll go back up the intake route, and it will slowly over time jet blast a little pathway into the cylinder head itself until it burns right through the side of the cylinder head and the valve. And I've seen them, you know, that big, totally melted the valve out, and I've actually seen that on the DAZA engine as well. So yeah, just make sure they're totally sealed and give her a nice clean out afterwards. Other than that, like I said in the video, I'm not going to make you sit and watch me refit the cylinder head and everything else. If you want to watch that, then go back and watch the long block rebuild video. Go back and watch that. It's just boring. So I'm not sure whether I said I traded the G42 1200 turbo in for a 7675 turbo. That is on its way to me now, the 7675, and that is rated to 1380 horsepower. So yeah, and we'll have nitrous on top of that. So hopefully the engine starts and it runs. That'll be the end of the issues. The next video I'm doing will probably be the mapping video. If not, it will probably be when the turbo gets here. The manifold's being fabricated for me as well. I just wanted the engine doing, so the manifold is being fabricated for me, and the downpipe is being fabricated as we speak. So I'll get those fitted, and then I'll have to build the fuel system. Nobody's done the type of fuel system I'm doing, so I might video that as well. So I don't know what the next video is going to be. I might just wait till it's all done and the big turbo's fitted, the manifold, the downpipe, the fuel system, everything's already in, and we'll just go straight to the mapping. I don't know, let me know what you want to see. If you want to see more detailed, just let me know. But other than that, that's it. On to the next one.